So, Decanting Napa Valley, the cookbook, is a collaboration of Napa Valley vintners, the regional restaurateurs, professional chefs, and winery chefs that have all come together to promote the wine region, including 16 writers, of which Peter Jacobson contributed. And I really wanted to unify the wine region to educate the traveler coming to Napa Valley, or just the enthusiast at large that wanted to learn more about Napa Valley wines and the story behind each winery and what makes each one unique.
Right. So, Peter, tell us about Jacobson Farms, and you've supplied French Laundry and what else?
Yes, our little farm here actually supplies, well, we're dedicated or sort of contracted exclusively to the French Laundry.
Okay.
So my wife and I grow it, and the chefs come and pick it. And right now we've got lots of different figs. We've got 10 different kinds of figs, and they love that kind of variety. And actually what I love is learning how they do it, how they're slicing the figs, how they're presenting them, what different types of chefs need for different kinds of preparations. So it's been a fun collaboration. And actually that brings us back to the book, actually. The collaboration, as Michelle mentioned, there seems to be a whole collaborative energy in the valley. And she was kind enough to let me write the foreword, and it had to do with just recognizing that. And there's a lot of new, young energy. I mean, that's where Ryan Hill comes in. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on, and the book captures that. It gets a feeling that you're participating in the whole process.
Now, Ryan, how was it like working with Michelle doing the book?
It was incredible. First of all, the way that the book, there's a lot of different cookbooks out there. And I think the reason that I got so excited about this book is the layout of it. And it's very simple, yet it offers so much information from the chef and the recipe and how it pairs with the wine, but then she incorporates Riedel stemware into that. And so it covers all the aspects in my mind of farming, dining, hospitality. It kind of ties everything together. And so it was a win-win for Hill Family Estate. And then also having Peter and Gwynnie as my godparents, and being that I was a neighbor across the yard here, I came over here and got some tribal wisdom while growing up, and that came from Peter and Gwynnie, and things that I couldn't necessarily learn in school. I found that that kind of echoed throughout Peter's foreword in the book.
Well, in my journey putting the book together and finding each person's story, it really comes down to these are farmers. These are people that love the land, love the grape, love working with the varietal. They're, scientists, they're working with clones, and they're educators. So when you come visit, if you are comfortable, and there shouldn't be intimidation. The winery should be warm and welcoming. And that's really why I wanted Ryan here today, because I think his tasting room, which is right downtown, and we'll also go to Hope and Grace, are two examples of a forward-thinking method, that they're very welcoming. Regardless of where your palate is and what you're comfortable drinking, there's a wine for you.
Is that
There's
Hill Estate is right next door, and Ryan and his family also have a farm, and they grow exclusively for Bardesano. So we have two, as a vintner, but we have two small farmers here that are reaching out and collaborating with other entities, and so it's really spinning that unity and coming together.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Growing up on an acre of land, there's always a high and best use for that land, and I don't think it was used to its optimum potential until Peter walked over and said, "Hey, do you mind if I plant a few things?" So, what is now called Hill Family Farms didn't have a name up until a few years ago. And before that, it was always an extension of Jacobson Orchards. And Peter and Gwynnie would take some of the things that they grew over at Jacobson Orchards and planted them on our property. And so it was nice seeing some of the chefs from the French Laundry come over and get to know them, but more importantly, learning from Peter on how to use land. And so then in 2008, when the Bardesano Hotel came to town, the general manager approached me and said that he would like exclusive use of the land, that they would supply us with a culinary gardener, and we saw that as a win-win situation. So Noelle Lopriori does a fantastic job of farming the land, and she's sort of the conduit between the land and the kitchen, where she works with the chef, Sean O'Toole, and together they do a wonderful job. And as owners, it gives us a lot of pride knowing that our name is proudly displayed on the menus there.
Now I'm going to respond to your art editing. Yeah. You mentioned coming to the Napa Valley, worried about intimidation. Actually, for me, it's a little intimidating because I look at the map, I see all of these names, hundreds of numbers almost. And so what I suggest to people to minimize that sort of spookiness or try to stay focused is actually pick out 1 or 2 wineries, maybe 3. And usually small ones. I like the small ones the best. And certainly the Hill Family Wine. It's a different feeling. People go in there, and you get to meet the staff. It's a comfortable environment, and they almost always have some ideas for you in local areas. But I also encourage people to don't just think they're going to drink wine, because the Napa Valley is so much more than just wine. They might end up going to the Oxbow down there in Napa, enjoying that, or go up to the CIA, walk around their new cookware store, even eat at the restaurant there, walk around in the gardens, and then you start to get a feel for the Napa Valley, how it's sort of the rhythm. It's not all about wine, but it's a lot about wine, but it's all about enjoying yourself, all about sort of getting a feeling for the comfort of living in a valley where the focus is people, food, wine, and just enjoyment of life.
I think when I designed and developed the cookbook, I did have a very strong emphasis on wanting to have a full range of wineries that were featured. So that's why we have some very small producers, but also why I thought it was crucial that we bring their story in.
Right.
So the reader can be less intimidated when they connect with the wine itself, but, oh, this was a farmer, or this is a doctor, or there's always kind of a tie-in to a family history or history within the Napa Valley as far as, say, a pioneer winemaking family. So I think that lessens the intimidation and makes it more enjoyable. And then you can connect with those wineries that you're drawn to. For me as a person, I'm a designer by trade. I travel a lot. And so it was 2 perspectives. It's understanding that, yes, where are the resources for the tourist or the wine enthusiast when they come? Filling that need and identifying that need. And then graphically presenting the book in an artful way. But really, it's turning to the experts, turning to the writers who deserve that recognition. And by unifying all of them, each person speaks about a different topic, and then the wineries deliberately are paired with a pairing recipe by a professional chef, whether that be a restaurateur, a winery chef that is actually employed on site, or a professional chef. But these are the chefs that work with these wines, that really understand the flavor profiles, why they pair well. Mm-hmm. So when the reader takes the book home, they have a recipe that will match, or at least an idea of what flavors will work well with the wine, because food really can so much enhance a wine and show the best characteristics of that wine.
What I find with this book, and what Michelle has done in her own way, is not only it features the wineries and it features the chefs and it features the contributors, but what's interesting about it is that the book makes a great tour guide. If a person buys it, say an inn or a winery, they're always talking about other things going on in the valley, and now it's almost a show and tell book. You open it up and you say, this wine is a great place to go visit from here, or did you go here yet? So it's a great little journal for people to work with. So if they live in the valley and they've got friends coming, it's a great way to explore the valley sitting in their own living rooms. the new concept or a lot about sustainable farming. You hear about it all the time. You hear about locavores, sustainable farming. How can you do the best for the land? Actually, sustainable has very wide definitions. It's not only the land, but it's actually sustaining the farmer. It's sustaining the whole region, for that matter. And what I like about a concept above and beyond sustainable is almost local adaptation. It's not my original concept. There's a lot of people that have thought about farming for a long run. This was a Wendell Berry concept. But local adaptation is that things grow up around the energy that's going on. And so our little farm, it's sustainable. I can keep it going. But it's sustainable because it's adapted to our region. It's adapted to focusing purely on restaurants. It's adapted to being a resource for chefs. Actually, the CIA classes will come down here and tour around, because with 120 different fruit trees, they're not going to get to experience that anywhere else, I like to think. And I've adapted so that we can be sustainable in this environment. So it's looking at what Ryan mentions, the highest and best use. It's looking at the use that feels the most comfortable, that serves the most people in the community.
As a member of Yountville, it's a very special place, and having the privilege of being born and raised here and living here over the last 28 years, I feel that I have a certain duty, not only to the fellow residents but also to the local businesses. And I find myself in sometimes an interesting situation, because Yountville is such a special place. When you look at the population, there's only 3,500 people here, and half of those are at the Veterans Home, and then maybe a quarter of the others are second homeowners. So it's a very tight-knit community. I mean, anytime you walk down the streets, you're going to see somebody that you know. So a lot of the locals feel that, gosh, Yountville, it used to be this charming little town that just had a couple of restaurants, and now it's just booming. And I, got to join the boom in 2006 when my family took over the antique fair, which specialized in selling French antiques from the south of France, and we complemented the antiques with the sale of my family's wine. And we wanted to celebrate our roots, being that we grew up here, have lived here, I want a family here, and so it's a very special place. But one of the things is, as Peter had mentioned earlier, is finding a rhythm. As a business owner and as a resident and as a member of the Yountville Kiwanis Club and the Concierge Alliance Napa Valley, all these little groups, is continuing what the Robert Mondavis started here. And that's preservation, but also lending innovation toward change in times. And so at Hill Family Estate, we're making wine, but really what we're doing is we're adding an innovative approach by staining things in wine, which has caught the eyes of a lot of locals and a lot of first-time visitors to the town. So I continue to strive to do that at Hill Family Estate, while preserving what others started and honoring